On August 8th, Lionel Messi's father, Jorge Messi, died at age 68 in Rosario, Argentina. 4 days later, Messi was back on a soccer pitch in Florida, and Inter Miami still lost. This is the kind of story that cuts through the usual noise of sports coverage. It's not just about a result, it's about what happens when grief collides with the relentless schedule of professional athletics, and what it reveals about the expectations we place on athletes even in their darkest moments. Let's break down exactly what happened, why Messi's rapid return shocked even his own teammates, and what this elimination means for Miami's season. Jorge Messi passed away after a prolonged illness that the family had publicly acknowledged during the World Cup. He was 68 years old. Lionel Messi missed Inter Miami's match against Monterrey on August 8th, the same day his father died, to travel to Argentina and be with his family. Miami lost that match 1-2. Then, just 4 days later, on August 12th, Messi was back. Not just back in Florida, back on the bench, suited up, ready to play in Inter Miami's League's Cup finale against Club León. Let that timeline sink in. 4 days from your father's death to sitting on a substitute bench in a competitive match. That's not normal. That's not what most people would do. That's not what most people could do. And the thing is, Miami needed him. They were facing elimination. This was the League's Cup finale, and Leon had come into the match with a perfect record in Phase 1. Miami had to win to advance, so Messi came back. The match itself, it was a roller coaster. Miami struck first. Daniel Pinter scored in the 42nd minute off an assist from Ian Frey. 1-0 Miami going into halftime. That's when Messi entered the match. The crowd gave him a standing ovation. Imagine being in that stadium. You know what he's going through. You know he just buried his father, and here he is walking onto the pitch because that's what the team needs. That's what the moment requires. Miami extended their lead early in the second half. Yannick Bright put one into the top left corner with his left foot in the 53rd minute, following a corner kick. 2-1, Miami, they were in control. Messi was on the field. Everything was pointing toward a Miami victory and advancement in the tournament, but soccer doesn't care about narratives. Club León had equalized just 3 minutes into the second half. Daniel Arcila scored in the 50th minute to make it 1-1 before Bright's goal temporarily restored Miami's lead. Then in the 61st minute, Juan Pablo Dominguez tied it again, 2-2, game on. And then in the 83rd minute, Arcila struck again. His second goal of the match, the winner, 3-2 León. Inter Miami eliminated. Messi's stat line, 5 shots, 3 on target. 2 dribbles, 4 key passes. He did everything except score or assist. He created chances. He pressed. He tried, and it wasn't enough. That's the brutal reality of sports. Sometimes effort and heart and showing up under impossible circumstances still result in a loss. Sometimes the story doesn't have a Hollywood ending. Yannick Bright spoke to the Miami Herald after the match, and his words capture the shock and respect Messi's teammates felt. Quote, "It's incredible. I wasn't expecting it. It shows how much he cares. When I saw he was here, all I was thinking about was to give my 150% for him." Think about that. Bright scored a goal in that match. He gave everything he had, inspired by Messi's presence and sacrifice. And it still wasn't enough. That's not a criticism of Bright or Messi or anyone on that Miami roster. That's just the nature of competition. Leon was the better team on the night, and they proved it, and Leon earned it. They finished Phase 1 with a perfect 3-0 record, 9 points, and moved to first place in the Liga MX standings. This wasn't a fluke. This wasn't a lucky break. Leon dominated their group, and they handled a Miami side that had one of the greatest players of all time on the pitch. Now, let's talk about the bigger picture here, because this angle raises questions that go way beyond one match result. First, should Messi have played? That's the uncomfortable question a lot of people are asking. And the answer isn't simple. Grief is deeply personal. Some people need time away. Some people need distraction. Some people need to be around their team, doing what they've done their entire lives, because the routine is the only thing that makes sense when everything else is falling apart. We don't know what Messi was feeling. We don't know what conversations he had with his family, with Miami's coaching staff, with himself. What we do know is that he made a choice to return, and his teammates were moved by it. But here's the thing, and this is where the sports world gets messy. Would Messi have felt the same freedom to stay away longer if Miami weren't fighting for tournament survival? If this were a meaningless mid-season friendly, does he take 2 weeks, a month, or does the pressure of a high-stakes elimination match create an expectation, spoken or unspoken, that he needs to be there? We celebrate athletes who play through pain, who suit up in impossible circumstances, who put the team first, but we rarely stop to ask whether that's healthy, whether that's sustainable, whether we're glorifying something that's actually destructive. Messi's return will be framed as heroic by some, as evidence of his commitment and professionalism. And maybe it was. But it also raises questions about the culture of professional sports, where the expectation is that you're available, you're ready, you perform, no matter what's happening in your life. Second, what does this elimination mean for Inter Miami's season? The League's Cup was a realistic path to silverware. It's a tournament that brings together MLS and Liga MX clubs, and Miami had the star power to make a deep run. Now they're out, eliminated in the finale, and they have to regroup and refocus on MLS play. The loss to Monterrey on August 8th and the loss to León on August 12th, those are two defeats in a row, both at critical moments, both against Liga MX opposition. That's not the kind of momentum you want heading into the final stretch of a season. And for Messi personally, this was a chance to deliver something meaningful for Miami in a moment when he clearly needed soccer to be a source of purpose and distraction. Instead, he walked off the pitch having done everything he could, and it wasn't enough. That's a hard pill to swallow under any circumstances. It's exponentially harder when you're processing the death of your father. Third, what does this say about the gap between MLS and Liga MX? Club León came into this match with a perfect record and left with a victory over a Miami side that features Messi, one of the greatest players in the history of the sport. That's a statement. That's Liga MX, showing that on any given night, they can match up with and beat the best MLS has to offer, even when that roster includes a living legend. This isn't about diminishing MLS or elevating Liga MX beyond where they actually are. It's about recognizing that competitive balance in this region is real, and that tournaments like the League's Cup expose both the strengths and vulnerabilities of clubs on both sides of the border. Finally, what happens next for Messi? He'll return to MLS play with Inter Miami. He'll continue to process his grief privately, away from the cameras and the commentary. And he'll do what he's always done, play soccer at the highest level, under the brightest lights, with the weight of expectation pressing down on him every single match. But this moment, this 4-day turnaround from burying his father to stepping onto a pitch in a must-win match, this will be remembered, not because of the result, not because of the stat line, but because it captured something raw and human about what we ask of athletes and what they're willing to give, even when the cost is almost unbearable. Messi chose to return. His teammates rallied around him. They fought, they led, and they lost. Sometimes that's just how it goes. Sometimes the story doesn't have a triumphant ending. Sometimes the only thing you can do is show up, give everything you have, and live with the outcome. That's what Messi did on August 12th. And whether you think he should have been on that pitch or not, whether you think the loss diminishes the gesture or underscores the impossible pressure he was under, one thing is certain: very few people in the world would have made the same choice. Very few people could have. Inter Miami is out of the League's Cup. Club León advances, and they earned it. And Lionel Messi is left to navigate grief and competition and expectation all at once in front of millions of people with no clear playbook for how to do it right. That's the story. That's the angle. And it's one that raises more questions than it answers.